So announcements. The April all-day sitting is coming right up on the 13th. Actually, it's just the first, but it seems like it's soon. And we'll do the traditional sitting, but we'll also have Buddha's birthday celebration, which is fun and joyous. And now that you know that people go off to Sesshin and come back giddy, you can finally wait to come for all-day sitting and anyway, please come. Thursday. Some of you are here on Thursday, some of you aren't. I'm not going to be here on Thursday. Marianne will be here. I'm going to be at the invitation of the minister, going to an interfaith leaders council that is interfaith from all over the county. And I wanted to do this for a long time, so I'm really looking forward to it. And part of it is the sanctuary movement, which I'll be able to say more about after that. I asked Marianne, because I've also wanted to do this for a long time, talking about interfaith practice, because nobody has to sign up to be a Buddhist and then pretend you're not something else. I mean, all the traditions came more alive for me the longer I practiced Buddhism, and Marianne very much has comes from Christian roots and very much maintains that practice, as well as being a very devout Buddhist. So I thought it would be interesting and fun and informative for all of us to tell us about her practice and how she does that. So that's what will happen on Thursday. Part of the service that we'll do tonight is also, I just want to say something about Myanmar, the earthquake that happened there. And just acknowledge, I've been there. Amazing people, amazing practitioners, interesting. We're doing Pali practice right now, and loving kindness, which is primary practice. And just so many, because so many of the buildings and the temples and the pagodas are ancient and old. They crumbled, and the artwork, which is just, I mean, I just the paintings on the wall, and monasteries crumbled, and monks and nuns and others, and so I'm just really aware of the suffering there. So we'll dedicate our practice and our service to them, and there's a link in the newsletter if anyone wants to send donations, because they need it. And there's also a military dictatorship, so it's very complicated, as you might imagine, how to get help to where it needs to be. So we've been these last weeks practicing with loving kindness, with metta. And we will continue to do that, I hope, forever. And I hope that you will do that personally, and we'll continue here. I will weave in doing metta and loving kindness meditations. And I'm so aware of that metta, loving kindness, needs to be grounded in wisdom, and wisdom needs to be grounded in loving kindness. It's called the two wings of awakening. Probably on a relative level, too much loving, too much loving kindness without wisdom. Well, should I say this? Maybe I shouldn't. It can just get it can get kind of ooey well, the minister said codependent. It's like, how can I help you? Let me, it is, and please, let's help. But bodhisattvas are grounded in, I've said this before, is I didn't like it when I heard it, and now it's like, bodhisattvas know about emptiness. If you don't know about emptiness, you're just gonna burn out. And you'll miss the wonder and preciousness and vast depth of being alive. And what is it to enact these bodhisattva vows that are, the beautiful thing about the bodhisattva vows is they're completely impossible. I mean, you vow to save all beings, in case you haven't noticed this. How are you going to save all? I mean, I just talked to somebody today who said, I don't think I can do that. I'm sure I want to do those vows. I've been thinking about them for a long time, and they're, it's impossible. And something says yes. And delusions are inexhaustible. You're going to end all delusions? And something says yes. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter that. What in the world does that mean? And you better start now, and you better start running around quick, because must be a lot of things to enter here. And Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it. It's like, okay. And something in us wants to chant loving kindness because it feels true, and we know that's the expression of our hearts. And then compassion arises out of that, and so we care. And a bodhisattva's life points to, on the deepest levels, something that is completely incomprehensible because you can't cognize it, but a deep sense and penetration, which is also zazen and zazen body and breathing in and breathing out, is that we are radically interconnected beyond anything that we can hang on to. But there's something that says, yes, I know that if your happiness is interdependent with my happiness, and we are all waking up together, and whatever we think is politics out there is, we care because we care about everyone. We really do want to, at least I really do want to save everybody. And what is that? And how do we, in our everyday life, in our body, heart, and mind, create and co-create a world that we not only can imagine, but someplace, it's a very childlike mind, but it's not childish, that just knows that there can be a world of love and care where everyone's cared for. So what is this love and this kindness and this compassion grounded in? And some years ago, when Marilyn was Shuso, and we'll do it again, we focused on the Heart Sutra, which in Mahayana Buddhism is the Prajnaparamita. The Prajnaparamita teachings are about emptiness, and they're very, very beautiful, and we will do them again. But because we're focusing on, and have been focusing on the Metta Sutta and the early Pali Buddhist teachings, I really, and I don't think that we've ever really done them here, is I want to do the Eightfold Path, which seems to me very practical and very grounded, which is making me happy because I think we need to have our feet on the ground and be paying attention. So, but it begins with Four Noble Truths. I have to confess, I used to think the Four Noble Truths were like beginning Buddhism. It's like, and then you kind of get it, and then you go on to you go on to the heart. So you go on to this advanced Zen stuff. And it occurred to me someplace along the way, I think that's not what the Buddha said. So we'll ground. We'll start with Four Noble Truths. Buddha's first discourse. Heads up, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you paying attention? There is suffering. There is suffering in this human life and in this world. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It was what brought me to Buddhism. I always knew there was suffering, and I grew up in a family where everybody was denying there was suffering, and it just made me mad. I was so happy when the Buddha said there's suffering, and it was like, yes! I know it. I mean, children know. You just look at the world and you just know. Second noble truth is it's not like this awful thing that you're stuck in and that you can't wake up in it, and that the reason we suffer is because I don't know, why do we suffer? It's because we think there's a solid self. We have things that we want. We have things that we don't want. Clinging, desires, thirsts, aversions. The whole world is moving and unfolding and revealing itself. And nothing wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. But we're all born into a human body and into 100 million causes and conditions of family systems that we were born into and cultures we were born into. And it's exactly perfect, because where else are you going to wake up except exactly in this perfect body and these beliefs that get to meet over and over. Because the more you meet them, you begin to have the feeling or the insight, and zazen body and practice and continuous practice is that maybe these are limited views and we don't have to be bound by them. That maybe there is a great big, wider, deeper isness and a Buddha body and a vast boundless heartedness, that if we keep meeting ourselves through the container of this self, the beliefs of this self, that there is transformation and freedom and a path to freedom and awakening that frees not just us, but the whole world. And that's the Buddha called it the Eightfold Path. That living the Eightfold Path is the path to freedom and liberation. So we'll focus on, it's articulated as right view, right intention. It's very much, don't get it wrong. No, that's a joke. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right understanding. And we'll spend time with each one. When I was, I think this is a lovely little book, The Eightfold Path, and it's Judith Regier does the introduction, and it's commentaries by actually Zen women. They're all priests, but they wouldn't have to be nice if they weren't. on the Eightfold Path, and I'll also be using a Bhikkhu Bodhi book on the Eightfold Path. I don't have it here today. But I think it's Judith said that the literal translation of right is sama, which means to go along with, or to go together, or to turn together. And it's originally from the term to unite. Yeah. So to unite, to be at one with, to not be at odds with, to flow with, to be backward step, practice body, to just keep coming home to this moment, to life as it is where freedom is where awakening is where love is where, and it was in the newsletter, as Joanna Macy reminds us, the two wings of wisdom and compassion they need each other. So maybe I'll take a minute here and I'm going to read Joanna Macy. We need both compassion and insight, wisdom into the radical interdependence of all phenomena. One isn't enough. We need the compassion because that openness to the pain of the world provides the fuel to move you out where you need to be, to do what you need to do. Yet compassion by itself, without understanding and trusting our interconnectedness, can burn you out. So you need the other wing, the wisdom that knows how interwoven we are in the web of life, inseparable from each other. That wisdom reminds us that we're not involved in a battle between good guys and bad guys, for the line between good and evil runs through the landscape of every human heart. It teaches that we are so interconnected and interexisting that even the smallest act with clear intention has repercussions throughout the web of life. But wisdom by itself is not enough to move us forward for the sake of all beings. It needs the steady, heart-opening beat of compassion, and then we fly. We can't have one without the other. When we open to the pain of our world, what we discover is our interconnectedness. And as we open to our mutual belonging, we feel the suffering. We don't shut it out. So compassion and wisdom belong together, empowering each other. They are the two wings of the Bodhisattva. Oh, and then she says, so how do you do this? I mean, that seems like logical. So what's that? Joanna Macy is eminently practical. I really like Joanna Macy. Let me just see if I can find, I can quote her. Oh, what does all this mean for us in our own lives? What are the ways we can live in the world as a bodhisattva, entering freely and fully into the heart of things, staying sturdy and strong in the midst of the turmoil? Well, we'll study the Eightfold Path. I'm sure it will give us some clues along the way and some help along the way. But in its essence, the gifts of the Bodhisattva are many, and the crucial one is simply sharing presence. It all comes down to just presence. It's so simple. That's how you save all beings. That's how you end all delusion. It's how you enter and be entered by everything and live and wake up to Buddha's way is presence. It is the gift of being fully here, with eyes and ears open, not wishing you were somewhere else or comparing it to a place you prefer to be. It is being in the world as it is. And it's why we need each other. Because we forget and we fall down and we get up. And so we sit together and we practice together, and we'll do loving kindness together, and we'll study the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. And we'll breathe together as one body and as one world. In a great, it is a faith practice. It is a kind of going beyond practice. But it's also a faith and a leap into something we already know, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. You'd go do something else. We already know full-heartedness. And we're, I suppose, in a certain way, staking our lives on it, which is a vowing body, which is a caring body, which is a bodhisattva body that knows love and loving kindness, and we need to be reminded, and compassion, we need to be reminded over and over that whatever we think is out there is, it's all an illusion, and we can breathe together and find our way together and wake up to a wisdom body that is a boundless heart body, that is a bodhisattva body. So what I wanted to do in the time that we have, because it seems like a good entryway into this. It also, I'm so glad Marianne's going to talk about interfaith practice. And I don't know how many people know the history of Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King, that they had a really deep inter-be relationship. So there's a lovely book called Brothers in the Beloved Community, The Friendship of Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King. And they I mean, if you say, so who are bodhisattvas that you know? I mean, people will often say, who's an embodiment of bodhisattvaness? People will say Thich Nhat Hanh, people will say Martin Luther King, they'll say other things, but so I want to, so they only met in person twice. And each time it was only for a few hours. But they exchanged remarkable letters. Martin Luther King, you may know, nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for the 1967 Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm going to read you some quotes. Thich Nhat Hanh said to Martin Luther King, in Vietnam, they think you're a bodhisattva. So there was a way that they both knew across traditions about love and about interconnectedness and inter-be. So it says here, the author is Mark Andrus. Viewed from today, we can see the qualities that drew Thich Nhat Hanh and King together. Their commitment to nonviolence, their spiritual grounding, the way they each in their own country worked to get religious people to come out of the safety of churches, temples, and monasteries and become active partners in societal transformation. The way each during the course of that work became world citizens. But before they met, I think the contrast, the walls between them would have been most obvious. Their countries were locked in a war with each other. One was Christian, one Buddhist, one was a monk, one married, and they were of different races. It's like, so what was this that they, I think, immediately saw and knew that was beyond their karmic lives and bodies. Here's a quote from a letter that's an early statement of King's belief in the interconnectedness of life. I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned by what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat, and justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. This is, I think, from the letter from a Birmingham Mail. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with the narrow provincial outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives in the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere in this country. Here's a description of Thich Nhat Hanh of meeting Martin Luther King. Dr. King was staying on the 11th floor. I was on the 4th floor. He invited me up for breakfast. On the way, I was detained by the press, so I arrived late. He had kept the breakfast warm for me and had waited for me. I greeted him. Dr. King, Dr. King. Dr. Hahn, he replied. We were able to continue our discussion on peace, freedom, and community, and what kinds of steps America could take to end the war, and we agreed that without a community, we cannot go very far. Without a happy, harmonious community, we will not be able to realize our dream. I said to him, Martin, do you know something? In Vietnam, they call you a bodhisattva, an enlightened being trying to awaken other living beings and help them move towards more compassion and understanding. I'm glad I had the chance to tell him that, because just a few months later, he was assassinated in Memphis. The Eightfold Path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right understanding. To fully understand the truth, to abandon what needs to be let go of, to realize and actualize and embody and live the truth, and then to develop and practice each truth continuously forever. That makes me really happy. It's like, how in this amazing world did Martin Luther King and Thich Nhat Hanh find each other? How did we all find each other? And what is this path that you can call it one thing in one tradition and another, but that somehow we do know, and that somehow we can help each other wake up, and that there is practice. And the language of a bodhisattva that flies on the two wings of loving kindness and wisdom. I remember. Remember a dream. It was kind of a nightmare for a long time, where I was on a path and it was on a cliff and it kept getting steeper and steeper and narrower and narrower. And I was just terrified. I couldn't figure out. There was no place to go. I mean, this was years. And then all of a sudden in the dream, I realized that I wasn't bound where I thought I was, that you could fly. I mean, there was a way just to let go. And then something different happens. But I will also confess that I often feel like I'm on a steep cliff. And often the world feels like it's on a steep cliff and the path is getting narrower and narrower. And what are we going to do? And there is the two wings of awakening. We just keep practicing loving kindness. We just keep extending and opening our hearts and coming up against the edges where we just want to shut down and it's narrow and who knows anything, but you just keep breathing on the edge. And there's also the wonder of wherever you think you are, you know, those old stories about, the old Zen stories about there's a tiger chasing you and you look down and there's a red strawberry, which was in the picture that Shelley provided in the newsletter. So beings are numberless, I vow to save them. I've always changed it too, because it felt too I-centric. I vow to save and be saved. It's presence. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end and be ended by them. Just presence. Here. Feel what needs to be felt. Practice. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter and be entered by them. What an amazing thing to be alive, to let life touch us all the way through. Each moment. Sometimes we can and sometimes we can't, and that's it too. And Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to become it is it's just Suzuki Roshi's yes, I will. This moment after moment. So that's what we're going to be doing. We'll spend some time with the Eightfold Path, and I'm really looking forward to exploring what these Zen women have to say and what Bhikkhu Bodhi has to say. And I'm really happy that we're going to do a service now. We're going to chant the Metta Sutta, and then Sangha members have organized a little ritual to acknowledge a beloved Sangha member who is going away, but who can't go away because there's no coming, no going, but she is going away. So it's nice to acknowledge that too. Okay. So we're going to stand up. We're going to do regular service. You can have the bell.